So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can put together a 15-second promo video that will get posted on things like Reels on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, those kind of things, just to try and promote from business to consumer what it's like to kind of go to and experience the board game cafe in this case for our clients. I should point out as well that for this tutorial and exercise, there is a voiceover that's provided. Now, I haven't done the voiceover myself. I'm sure you don't want that. But you will find that as emerging now is text to voiceover. So places like websites like FreePick, they offer an AI voice where you basically paste the text in here that you wish to. You can choose a particular language or an accent, male or female, and then it will then these were basically created within about 20 seconds. You get a voiceover. They're not great. They don't lack some of the kind of emotions, and they don't always come off right with the tone and things like that. But if you're trying to convince maybe the owners of Treehouse to come in and do a voiceover and take time to do that, and they want to do that themselves, then they could do that. Or you can even record things on, obviously, a smartphone these days as well, and they could just email that across. So maybe to convince somebody, I think that's where it really is at the moment. It's not what I would say published quality. It's okay. So the first step for our project is music. So in the folder of downloaded assets that is called Treehouse Promo, we've got a couple of music files. So they've been downloaded straight from FreePick, and fine. There's a couple of options, so you have a choice. But the trouble is we need a 15-second clip of music to go with our promo. But this first one is 2 minutes and 13 seconds, and the other one is 1 minute and 38. So that presents a problem in that we need to make this music shorter, but we also need to make it fit within the time frame that we're looking at. So to help us with that, we're going to use Adobe Audition. So I'm just going to do a search on here for Audition. You might have to install it. So I'm just going to go with 2025. Double click on that to load it up. So now with Adobe Audition now launched, if you go up to File and then choose Open, we're going to go to the Treehouse Promo folder, and then I'm going to select this track called musicfun.mp3 and then choose Open. This appears inside of here, but what we need to do is go to File, choose New, and then Multi-Track Session to be able to get the features that we need. So click on that one. So I'm going to ask you to save this as a project, so basically a folder. So I'm just going to call this TH for Treehouse, and then Promo. I'm just going to make sure that I am inside of the Treehouse Promo folder, which I am. Click on Choose, and then leave all the other options as they are. So sample rate 48,000 kilohertz, bit depth 32, mixed stereo. Click OK. And so what it's actually done is, in our Treehouse Promo folder, it's created a new folder in there where it's kind of just puts all of its data and everything inside of there. So that's why we had to do that. You'll then see over here that we have our Music Fun MP3. If you left click on that, you can drag it onto the timeline in here. Now, it's got a slightly different sample rate. That's fine. It's just to do with the data, how the music's kind of compressed, but just click OK to that. And then once it's been analyzed, you can then click on it and just make sure you drag it back to the start. And then from here, you'll need to go to the properties panel. So if you don't see it, it should be down here. But again, just like all the other Adobe apps, go to Window. And if you don't see a tick adjacent to properties, click on it there and it will appear. What we then need to do is, with your track left clicked on and selected, go to Remix. And here, if it's not visible, just click on the toggle for Remix and then click on Enable Remix. So Adobe Audition will analyze this. It's basically looking for tempo, breakpoints. What this will allow you to do then is to extend or contract the length of this track. All you then have to do then is go to the target duration, click in here, and so this is going to be minutes in here. So this needs to be set to 0 minutes, and then we need that to be, let's go for 15, see what it gives us, and just get rid of the sort of the decimal points at the end in there. I'm going to set those to 0 and then hit return. So that should be 0:15. 0.000. Hit return, and then it's going to give us a clip inside of here. You can then click on play and then test out the track, and then it gives you a version of that original that will hopefully fit within that time frame. So here it's basically given us one that it finishes around about 12.5 seconds. So I'm going to just try and let's go for 16 seconds in here. So just get rid of the 5, hit return, it'll analyze it. Yeah, look, it's gone a little bit too far. So sometimes there's a little bit of a, kind of a guesstimate really in here just to play around with it. So if I just go for 15 seconds and then put 5 in there after the decimal point, see what it gives us. Yeah, it looks like it's going to basically come out about 13 seconds. That's fine. I'm just going to hover my cursor on the end of the track. I'm going to trim this off basically. So I'm going to go to in here 14 seconds like so. And then from there, making sure that track is still active, what I'm going to do is go to File, go down to Export, and then choose Multi-Track Mix Down Entire Session. So this is what we're exporting everything from this session inside of Adobe Audition. And then click on that. In here, then you'll need to make sure, first of all, the format is set to MP3 in here. To be honest, it could be MP3 or it could be WAV. It could be a WAV file. I'm going to choose MP3 in this case. And then I'm going to have this, the name of it, let's just call this promo pop.mp3. I'm going to have the location set to not there. I'm going to browse back to my desktop and then Treehouse promo. And then I'm going to stick it. I'm going to stick it in the top of this folder in here. I'm going to click on Save. So that's the destination. MP3 audio. Leave everything as it is. Click on OK. And that's it. It's done. So you can then go to your Founder window, and then let's have a look in here. So we've got TH Promo Pop. Press the space bar, and we've got 14 seconds in there. So you can either just choose to. When we get it into After Effects, we'll decide how we're going to combine the music with some of the visuals and things like that. So final thing to do then is to just click back on Adobe Audition and go to File and choose Save. And then we can quit out of Adobe Audition. And then we'll head into After Effects. So I'm going to press again Command and Spacebar to bring up Spotlight and then choose After Effects. I'm going to use 2024 version here, so I'll double click on that and then load it up. So now with After Effects open, I'm going to go over here and click on New Project. If this welcome screen doesn't appear, you can always go to File and then choose New and then New Project. But I'm going to click on New Project, and then this kind of takes us to the interface in here. If you don't see what I've got on screen here, this is the default layout. Then you can go up to this button up here and then just choose Reset to save layout. This is just kind of a standard setup for After Effects. And then we need to import the footage that we've got. So first of all, I'm going to click on the window here for Project. And then I'm going to press Command and I or right click and then go to Import and then choose File. And then first of all, I'm going to bring in the images. So I'm going to bring in images 1 and then Shift and left click on 12, click Open. And this kind of becomes like a resource bin, essentially a project panel in here. You can drag and drop stuff into the timeline. Now, it can get a little bit congested in here. So I'm going to right click underneath and choose New Folder and then call this Stills, hit Return. And that creates a new folder. I'm going to click on those images, Shift and left click on 12 and drag and drop them into that folder. And then I'm going to create a new folder, right click, new folder, audio, and hit Return. Now, because that one is active, if I now press Command and I to import, I'm going to bring in from here the promo music that we edited in Audition. And I'm also going to bring in the Jordan voiceover and then click on Open. And that automatically puts them into that folder in there. So we've got stills and audio. That's our resources. And then what we need to do is we need to create a composition, which is basically like a page in other applications that you'll have used. It's a new canvas with what we're going to create for video content. So you do that by going down to here and you click on Create New Composition. Click on that. I'm going to call this TH-Games. And then I'm going to go to the preset in here, click on the drop down menu, and I'm going to choose Social Media Portrait HD. So 1020, 1080 by 1920, 30 frames per second. Click on that. Don't need to be that many frames per second, so I'm just going to change it to the European standard in here of 25 frames per second. And now my background color in here is set to red. If yours isn't, then I'm just going to click in red there just for now to show you that the background doesn't render out like footage. It's just transparent. So I just want to show you a difference between my red background and when we bring in a proper solid background in the actual timeline. So I'm going to just leave that to red. And then under duration, we just want to make sure that is 15 seconds in here. So if you make sure that that timestamp in there is added, that's going to be 15 seconds. And then we can click on OK. So here we have our kind of canvas for our video, timeline down here with nothing in. So the first thing we need to do is add a proper background in that will get rendered with the video of color of our own choice. So hover your cursor in here, right click, choose new, and then choose solid. This is like a solid shape layer in Photoshop basically. And I'm going to call this background. It will be the same size as the canvas, but for the color, I'm going to click in there. And then you need to make the color of this with an RGB, red, green and blue of 26, 26 and 26. Or you can type into the hex field 1A, 1A, 1A. Click OK. Then click OK in there. And it drops it in there. So that now is our shape layer, just a solid color. So when the logo appears, there's something behind it and it's not transparent video. So with that done, at the moment, you'll notice that that is now in the timeline with a name. And it runs the full length of the timeline of 15 seconds. Now, at the moment, it's visible, but you can click on the eyeball to make it disappear. Turn it back on again. We don't need to edit this now, so you can click underneath the padlock and just lock that away now, like so. So that is the basis of our canvas. The next thing we need to do is bring some images in. So first of all, I'm going to choose image 1, and I'm going to drag and drop that down here, but just above background. Again, so we get an image in here, it runs the full length of the timeline. We will change that. And then I'm going to click and drag image 2 just above image 1, 7. I mean, you can choose whichever images you want to. I just found this got a combination of kind of games and then the actual place itself. And then I need 11, 12 and 10. So I can actually click on 11 in here, drag and drop it down, 12, and then 10, and drag and drop that in here like so. So every image that we've brought in now runs the full visibility of the canvas that we've got. So before we do anything else, we can't see the treehouse sign in here. So I'm just going to make sure I click on layer 10. Sorry, in there, it's thimages10.jpg. Hover over this and then just drag it so that we can see that in the composition in there like so. Make sure we don't leave any gaps so we can at least see that it's a treehouse. And then you can click away. Now we don't want all of these clips. Obviously, if we leave them all at 15 seconds, we're only ever going to see one. So I'm going to click on image 10 and then shift and left click on image 1. So we've got all of them highlighted, and then take your cursor to the very end of the timeline and your cursor will change to a double-headed arrow pointing left and right. This is kind of a trimming tool. Click and hold down the left mouse button, drag it all the way back to about 2 seconds. And that will allow us to basically stagger all this footage separately along the timeline. And it should kind of fill out our sequence basically and leave us a little spare at the end for a logo as well. So with that done, next thing we need to do then is to start moving all of this across the timeline. So we're going to start with image 1 being visible first. And I'm going to drag image 2 and overlap them very, very slightly. So if I just go down to the bottom here, this allows us to zoom in. So you can drag that to the right hand side to zoom in like that. So you can see that's where it is. I'm then going to click on each of these clips and then drag them along. So there's a little bit of overlap in there like so. And we've got that. So we're finishing about 11 seconds in here, and it just gives us a chance to put a logo in at the end and things. So we've got that. Now, we obviously at the moment, if I don't have any sense of the audio and things like that, so we can add that as well. So if I go to audio, I can click on both of these, shift left click on promo pop and then the voiceover, drag it down onto the timeline. And because it's not a visual thing, it's just audio. You can drag it right down to the bottom. It's color coded those green so we can see a difference in here. And then if I just make sure my playhead now is at the very start in here, I can press the space bar and it plays through. There we go. So yeah, 15 seconds will be about right for us. At the moment, the music's a little bit loud. Now that one is the promo. So with that selected, what I can do is click on the toggle and expand that open, expand open audio, and then we've got audio levels. And then you can hover your cursor over there and just click and hold down the mouse and drag that back so that it reads, say, sort of -6. And that just lowers the volume down. So again, if I put it back to the beginning in here, press the space bar to play. So it's a little bit better. Fine, great stuff. So we've now got the voiceover nice and clear. We've got some music in there. Again, we can just lock those two. We don't need to edit them. Leave them as they are. And then the next thing we need to do is just click on the topmost layer, the one that's images 10. Go up to the top of the screen, and then we need to choose Layer, New, and then choose an adjustment layer. And what essentially adjustment layer is, it's completely transparent, but you can add effects to it. So it just makes it easier than trying to apply the same effect to separate little bits of footage that we've got in the timeline. And anywhere where the effect is obviously right at the top here, it will affect anything lower down. So in order to do this, what we need to do is add an effect to it. So I'm going to right click on that piece of footage for the adjustment layer, and then I'm going to go to Effect and go to Blur and Sharpen, and then choose Camera Lens Blur. So I'll just leave that there for you to be able to see. Camera Lens Blur. Click on that, and then that is now applied to the adjustment layer. And if you want to rename that, you can. You can click in here, hit the return key, and then just call that lens blur effect, like so. So you know what it is. Great. The options for that are then shown up at the top here. So to start off with, I want to make sure that none of this is applied in our video. So under blur radius, click in there, set that to be 0, and then I'm going to drag my cursor back down here just before that first two bits of footage overlap each other, and then I'm going to zoom in nice and close in here so we can see this, and then I'm going to expand open lens blur, and you'll see that it's got an effect applied to it. So expand that one open, and then it's got camera lens blur, expand that one open, it's got blur radius. So that value in there can be edited here, or the blur radius can be edited there, but we need to animate this. So what we need to do is go to the stopwatch next to blur radius, as I say, just before these two clips sort of overlap. So I'm going to put it somewhere between frame 15 and then between frame 15 and frame 20, something like that. And then I'm going to click on the activate animation, and that adds a keyframe just here. I'm going to drag this to where the clip, just before the clip starts here. So just before. Set that blur radius to be 40, so it kind of peaks beforehand, and then just after it transitions, similar sort of distance in here, so something like that. I'm going to set that one again to be 0, like so. So if I just put my playhead back to the beginning and press the space bar, it's just playing through the first time. So if I just put the playhead back, it's just caching that a bit slow. So press spacebar again. There we go. You get this kind of blurred out and then blurred back in again between the footage. So it's a lens blur effect. Now the nice thing is that we've got these 3 keyframes in here. So what I'm thinking is I can basically just swipe over or click and drag across them, and I can copy them. So Command and C. And if I drag the timeline along here to just before where the next set of stills transition, press Command and V, I can paste them in there as well. And again, do the same thing. So I'm just basically working along, dragging the playhead along here, Command and V, and then if I follow that process, again, just here, Command and V. Sometimes you might have to move them. They will be selected, so you can just drag them a little bit like that. So we just want this one where it's set to be 40 for the maximum blur, to be just before the clips kind of just overlap one another. And then move on to the next one. About here, Command and V, just pull these two back a little bit. So this middle one's just before that next clip. And then next one is just here. So again, Command and V, and we just want to make sure that that is just here. So I'm just going to drag that one so that that maximum value there of 40 radius for blur is right on the end of the final clip in there. I'm going to zoom out so I can see all of this, drag back to the beginning of the timeline, press the space bar. Again, some of these will play slow because it's just caching these through. If you find that it's been a little bit slow, and I'm sure the computers will, you can also go to the icons here for the sound and just turn the sound off. Just give it something less to do. So we can just focus on the blurs in there. And it's a nice sort of, for After Effects, a fairly straightforward method of creating those blur effects and transitioning between. So that is blur radius. Yeah, as I say, we control that up here, and it's been added to the lens, the adjustment layer in there. So I'm going to collapse that. We don't need that anymore, and I'm going to lock that as well so we don't edit that by accident. At this point, I'm going to go to save this. So File, and then Save. And I'm going to save this in our main treehouse. I'm just going to call this treehouse-promo. It's going to save it as After Effects file and then click on Save. So from here, if I collapse the lens blur adjustment that we've got in there, we now need to bring in a logo so we can rotate it in 3D. So for that, we need to go back and just see in here, there's the Project tab. Click on that one. I'm going to go to Stills, and I'm going to press Command and I and import the Treehouse AI file. So I'm going to click on Open. And they're going to bring that in as, leave all the options in there, click OK, there it is. Now for this one, what we have to do is we have to drag it onto the timeline and then convert it into a shape. So I'm going to drag that from here down above the effect layer that we've got in there. Now it does appear very small. So if I click on properties over at this side, we've got the scale. I'm going to change that to be 500, hit return. And that should give us a decent size. And then in terms of position, now we know that this first column in here is X, that moves left to right. Y moves up and down. So if I just change that to where you can just, if you want to just guesstimate it, you can drag it up until you feel it looks right. We need to put the web address under here. That's why I'm moving it. So yeah, let's go for 850. 850. So 540 is right in the middle of the canvas. And then 850 just moves it up slightly so we can put some text underneath and the whole thing feels centered. So for now that is fine, but we need to go back down here to the actual layer, right click on it for the Illustrator artwork, go down to Create and then choose Create Shaped from Vector Layer. And that creates a vectorized version, which sometimes can be a little bit better quality. Sometimes it's better to convert them to shapes inside of After Effects rather than leaving from an Illustrator file. So we've got that now, new layer in there. Or you can click on the one underneath, which is the Illustrator one, and you can just press the backspace key and delete that. We don't need it anymore. So this now is grouped artwork. I'm actually going to change the color of that. I'm going to click in there. I'm going to change that to yellow so we can see it nice and clear in there. So that's just on the actual canvas there. That's just kind of the properties that won't render out, but we can see the same layer color in there. Now, for this one, we need to convert this into a 3D layer. But before we do that, we need to just change the color of this. So I'm going to go up to making sure that it's active inside of here. Go up to the top. We've got fill and click in the color box in there. And then I'm just going to change this to be kind of a lighter one in there. Let's go for 200 for the red, green and blue in there. So kind of a paler white in there. Click OK. And then that gets us a nice brighter color. We then need to come back down here, and then underneath the option that's got a cube, which is a 3D layer in there, click on that one. And then that turns it into a 3D layer. So you can expand the toggle next to that one. You notice they've got options for transform and things, but if I press R on the keyboard, that takes us to the rotation options inside of After Effects. And then we don't need this to appear through the whole of the video, so I'm going to hover my cursor over the far left-hand edge of the clip, drag this along to just after where the last image finishes. So you've got the last image in here, blurs out, and then we've got this. So right at the start of the footage here, we need to change the X rotation in here by hovering over and dragging that. So you can see, oops, not the X, it must be the Y. Yeah, that's it, the Y axis in here. So hovering my cursor over there and dragging left and right, you can see that it actually rotates this in 3D space in there. So I'm going to set this to be there, -90. So type in -90, hit return, and that will be perfectly side on now. And then we click on the animate button, the stopwatch next to the Y rotation, click on that, then just drag the play header on just a few more frames in between sort of 12 and 13 seconds, and then we just click in there, type in 0, and there we go, we have our animation. So you'll see that now if I just click off the layer by clicking down here, you'll see that that animates. So we go from the image in there, and then the logo appears and it rotates around like so. So that's how you can create a 3D rotation for your artwork. We can then collapse that one, and then we need to add some text. So if you go up to the type tool at the top of the screen, click on there, and then click and drag across this region here. Then we're going to add in the Treehouse web address. So that needs to be treehousesheffield.com. Now I've got this set to lowercase in here. Again, you can click and drag and highlight all those characters. The option should appear over here. So I'm going to set this to be Myriad Pro Bold. And in terms of the size, 72 points. The color, I'm going to click in the color box in there. And then what you'll find is there is an eyedropper. So if you want to just color this 200 for red, green and blue, you can do, or you can click on the eyedropper and just click on and sample the light white there from the logo. But that needs to be also 200 for red, green and blue. And then it needs to be center aligned in here. With that done, we should be good. And then I'm going to click on the layer in here. I'm going to drag the start point so that it appears once the logo has fully rotated. So about here, drag this to here, and then drag that all the way to the end to 15 seconds. That's for our text in there. And then we're going to change the opacity for that as well. So with it active, obviously you can click in it in here, or click on the item in the timeline. Then you can go to the opacity option in here, set that to be 0, hit return. Then you can click on the stopwatch. That sets the first keyframe to be set to 0 opacity. Then you can drag it on, and just a few frames further on again in there, we can then go up to the opacity and we can set that to be 100 and hit return. So now I've still got my sound turned off at the moment. I'm going to drag that all the way back, press the space bar, and then we get our lens blur effects in here, all the way across, and then that one blurs out. The logo appears in 3D, and then the text underneath, and it'll just keep playing through. So I press the space bar again to stop playing through. So that is a basic sequence inside of After Effects that includes voiceover, music that we've timed. We've got 3D rotating logo. We've got some static images that I've got transitions between them. So now I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to choose Save. And then the next thing to do is to export this out. So we need to first of all click on the composition down at the bottom, because After Effects will need to know what you want to export out. So as long as you click somewhere underneath here, do just make sure that if you've turned off the audio, turn it back on again, because it won't export out. And then we need to go up to File, and then down to Export, and then choose Add to Adobe Media Encoder Queue. So there's a separate bit of software that basically creates and encodes audio and video. And so click on that one, and then it opens up on screen. You might have to wait a couple of minutes for the job that we've sent to Adobe Media Encoder to appear in this list in here, so you might have to be patient. But then when it appears in here, it tells us this is the file name it's come from, so TH Games. Then we need to change the file format in here. We'll remember whatever was used last. So if we click on the drop down menu, then we need to use H.264 is for the codec that we're using to export to video. And then in terms of this, then what we need to do is we can tell it to match the source, but you might notice in here there are also things such as Vimeo, Twitter, before it got called X, YouTube. I think in our case, there isn't anything I'm really seeing in there that is for Instagram. So we'll just match the source in there, to be perfectly honest. And then when you're ready to, make sure it's highlighted. We then need to choose an output folder. So just make sure that it is going to our Treehouse folder. Now watch out, because that's the Treehouse folder. It's going to automatically render it out and put the finished video into the Treehouse Promo After Effects folder in there. So I'm just going to click on Treehouse Promo, click on Save, and then with it highlighted, click on Play, and that will render it through. And then when it's finished, you'll notice there's a tick adjacent to that now. So we'll take a look at where that video is. So here we've got our main folder. There it is. So if I double click on that, it'll open up in QuickTime Player. And then if I press play, you probably won't be able to pick up the audio that well in here, but
whether you're a board game pro or a total newbie, there's something for everyone.
Cool. So there we have it. That is the entire process of how you bring content into After Effects and create a short promo video. Thank you for watching.